Hello.
Hola.
Bonjour.
Привет, 你好. So, now you probably want to learn pronunciation, I hope. And in this video, we're going to get a little more technical, but I'll try to make it simple. It's just to explain to you which sounds you can end up needing and which ones you don't and why. In my personal experience, knowing how or why I want to do something makes me really want to do it instead of just doing it because somebody tells me to. So let's get to it. So sounds. Before I spoke about sounds only. When you're learning a language or describing your own, sounds encompass a lot of things. You have sounds that are produced in that string of noises, like I said before. Those are called phones, like the phone you call on. And that's what phonetics studies, actually. Any sound that is produced. Then you have phonemes, and those are the sounds that make a difference in the language. They are called the tiniest unit of meaning in a language because if you change one little sound, you'll change the meaning of a word. For example, pot and pet. I only changed the vowel, but I changed the word. Okay, so those are phonemes, roughly speaking. And then you also have anything that has to do with prosody. Prosody can be the intonation, the stress for each syllable in the word, the rhythm, all a bunch of stuff that doesn't belong to one single sound, but that conforms the music of the language you're learning or you speak. So, in theory, we could produce infinite amounts of sounds, of phones, because the vocal tract is made in such a way that you can. There's a lot of resonant chambers, and depending on how you move your mouth, and you use these cavities here and all your head, basically, and your throat, you'll be able to produce a lot of sounds. But fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we don't. We just pronounce a certain amount of sounds. In fact, most languages would have 20 or 30 phonemes, the ones that are really important. And you don't need more than that. So if you take, if you compare that to, say, the amount of words you need to learn to learn a new language, it's nothing, right? 20, 30 sounds is not much. Well, of course, you're going to have to add everything that has to do with the prosody and things like that. So it's going to be a little more than that, but don't worry, it's really not that much. So just to describe a little bit, to explain to you which ones you need and which ones you don't, I need to get a little technical here, but hopefully not too much. See this? This is the International Phonetic Alphabet. You may have heard about it. Basically, with these, it has something like 160 symbols, and with just this sheet, you can actually transcribe every sound in the world, pretty much. You have the symbols for the actual sounds, like consonants and vowels, and you have little symbols that show you different variations in each sound. You have symbols for tones, like tonal languages, like Chinese, for example, and a bunch of other little markers. But basically, this would be what allows you to transcribe any word and how to say it. If you are more of a language nerd or you want to learn it, I encourage you to do it because it's really fun and you get to understand, to know how to pronounce a word, or almost every time you look at a dictionary, for example, if there's a phonetic transcription. But you really don't need to. All I want to show you here is, see the part I highlighted here? That's the consonants. All the consonant sounds, or almost, that you can produce. And they're basically divided anatomically. From left to right, you have the position of the sound in your mouth. So, for example, the M at the very top is with your lips. That's why it's called bilabial, both lips. And then from top to bottom, you're talking about the quality of the air, or how the air goes through your mouth. Are you blocking it? Are you using your nose? Are you letting it run smoothly? For the difference between, for example, P, the P sound, and the S sound is that one lets the air the S lets the air run freely, while the P, there's a blockage, a wall, and then the air gets released all at once. So all those fancy names are to describe that. And then in each cell you have sometimes two variants, like the P and the B you see on the top left, and that means that one is voiced and the other one unvoiced. And a simple trick to know which one is which, if you don't know, is that you put your hand on your throat, close to your vocal cords, and you pronounce, for example, let's say the F sound. Nothing should move there. You're just letting the air run freely, but you're not using the vocal cords. In the opposite case, if you use the equivalent the V sound, then you feel the vibration in the cords. That's the difference between voiced and unvoiced. Okay, so these are a lot of sounds. Some of the symbols you may not recognize, but actually if you go on Wikipedia and you search for the International Phonetic Alphabet, most of the time you can click on those symbols and it'll tell you what it sounds like. So I think it's pretty cool if you're curious about it. Okay, then there's the vowels. That's also described anatomically. On the very top left corner you have the E, which is in the front. The tongue is in the front of the mouth, and it's your lips are closed. E. Okay, and then if you go horizontally all the way towards the U, that is the tongue is in the back, but your lips are protruded, and it's also closed. Ooh. While from top to bottom, what you're looking at is the opening of the jaw. So if you go from E to the one at the bottom, ah, it will be much different. Okay, so I won't get into details, but those two are basically the most important ones. The others are for details depending on which language you're learning. Now, say you're an English speaker, native or not, if you have a perfect pronunciation or pretty close, you have all these vowels already. You know all these vowels. The symbols may not tell you much right now, but you actually know them all. And if you add diphthongs, which are very important in English, you have these little arrows that tell you which vowel goes to which one. And that's all there is in your brain for the phonemes. Now, these are sounds that will make a difference if you change one sound, like I said before, with pet and pot. Okay? In this example on the right, you actually see that it's just the B and the T sound, and the only thing that changes is the vowel, and you have a bunch of words, right? So those vowels are very important. And I would encourage you to learn them because they will help in terms of comprehension and in both ways, being understood and understanding. In Spanish, for example, it's much, much easier. I was born in Spanish and raised a Spanish speaker, and in the beginning I only had 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U. So for a Spanish speaker, it's quite a challenge to learn all those other vowels in English. So as an English speaker, you already have an advantage. French, not so much, because there's a lot of more weird sounds there. Like, for example, the ones you see with a curlicule, those are the nasals, on, and all those. So that's another story. And you have other vowels that you don't have in English. Chinese, wow, look at that. It looks very, very simple. Everybody says it's really hard to learn Chinese. Well, that's not everything. That's the thing. Yes, the single vowels are very simple, it's just a few of them, but then you have to learn which diphthongs to use. So diphthong, sorry, I forgot to explain, is 2 vowels together forming one sound. O, ow, I, all those. And then in Chinese, they also go in 2 directions, and then on top of that, you would need the tones. Those are crucial, like phonemes, because if you change the tone, you change the meaning of the word too. So now, if you look at them just like that together, you can have an overview of why it's difficult, for example, for a Spanish speaker to distinguish between beat and bit, top left of the English diagram, and because we only have one, everything sounds like E. So it's gonna require a bit of effort to split it into 2. In your head, it's already split into 2. And vice versa, for you to not sound too American or British when you're speaking Spanish, you're going to have to kind of merge the two sounds together, or at least pronounce them closer to the E in beat. Okay, so we'll just stop here this part, but I'll continue on the next one with the consonants and much more, because there's a lot more to say. And click on like and subscribe and all those things, and receiving notifications I think you have to ask for. And anyway, see you on the next part for more.